Hello everybody, it's Gaz here from EnglishWithGaz.com. How are you doing today? Thanks a lot for joining me. Today I'd like to talk about using present tenses to talk about future plans. Now when I decided to start making videos for this YouTube channel, this was one of the first videos that I wanted to make because in my past experience when talking to students and explaining what I'm about to explain to you, people found it really useful and I was surprised how many people didn't know this really simple tip to help you avoid the complications of using what can be a more complicated tense such as the future continuous or the future simple. So let's begin. What I've done here is, to begin with, I've written down a question to show you just how simple it is, and in fact to show you that you already actually know what I'm going to tell you. So the question is, what are you doing tomorrow? Now if I wanted to use the future simple, I could say, I'm going to go to work. And that's absolutely fine, that's correct, great English. But if you were to ask this question to a native speaker, 90% of them would say, I'm working. Some people may say this, and there's nothing wrong with saying this, of course, it's correct, it's good grammar, it's good English. But I'm working is also acceptable, and that's what the majority of native English speakers would say if you ask them, what are you doing tomorrow? Now you can change the verb, it could be anything, it doesn't make a difference. The point is that to talk about your future plans, it's acceptable to use the present continuous to talk about future plans. So now that we understand that, let's explore this a little bit further to make sure that you really understand the message and this tip, which can really help you to feel like you don't need to be stressed about using the future tenses. So, and I wish this were true, but it isn't, unfortunately. What I'm just going to read you these two sentences to begin with, and then we'll look at it in a little more detail. So whilst I'm reading, you think to yourself, does that sound correct or does that sound incorrect? So if I said to you, I'm going on holiday next week, my flight leaves at 10 a.m. I'm taking a taxi to the airport and it's picking me up at 6 a.m. How does that sound to you? All good? Yes, is the answer, because it is all good. So let's look at it now in a little bit more detail. Now we could say here, I'm going to go on holiday next week. Again, that's fine, it's correct. But what we're going to try and do is get in the habit of using the present continuous to talk about future plans. By doing this, it means that you don't have to worry about whether you're using the future simple correct. Are you using going to or will? Because let's be realistic, it is a little bit complicated. I'm not saying you don't need to learn it, of course. There are many reasons why you should learn how to use the future tenses, especially the future simple. But when we're talking about our future plans, we can absolutely use the present continuous, and we do, and I do, and native speakers do. So I'm going to go on holiday next week. Just doesn't sound right to me. In fact, I so rarely hear this construction that it sounds odd to me, although it is completely correct. I'm going on holiday next week just sounds much more natural to me. So when we're talking about our future plans, which we've already made, we can use the present continuous. I'll just swap over here. If we continue here, my flight leaves at 10 a.m. Now I'm not using the present continuous anymore, but I am using the present simple. So instead of saying my flight is going to leave at 10 a.m, which is also correct, most native speakers would choose to use the present simple and say my flight leaves at 10 a.m. But why? Well, that's because we can use the present simple to talk about fixed timetables, and schedules in the future. So flights, for example, there's a definite time which it is set to leave. The same with trains, buses, boats, public transport. We know exactly what time it's going to leave. In that case, we can use the present simple to talk about the future if we're discussing things which have a fixed timetable or schedule. I'll just move back over here. Moving on, a further example would be, I'm taking a taxi to the airport. Again, I could use the future simple and say, I'm going to take a taxi to the airport, but why bother? It's so much simpler to use the present continuous, a tense that you are probably much happier using. If you're an intermediate level student, certainly by now, using the present continuous is a tense that you're comfortable using. Excuse me. So I'm taking a taxi to the airport. Great. And it's picking me up at 6 a.m. Fantastic. It sounds so much simpler than I'm going to take a taxi to the airport and it's going to pick me up at 6 a.m. Again, to me, to my ears, even though it's correct, it just sounds strange. So there we have it. Remember, don't stress about using future tenses when talking about future plans. Remember these two rules. 1. You can use the present continuous to talk about your future plans. Look at the examples. 2. You can use the present simple to talk about plans which are fixed because of a timetable, a schedule, or a calendar. I just wanted to give you one more example before we go. I think that using the present continuous is a quite simple thing to understand. Perhaps this is not so easy to understand. So think about each day when the sun rises and the sun sets. If you're listening to the weather forecaster talking about tomorrow's weather, you never hear them say, the sun is going to rise at 5:15 a.m. and the sun is going to set at 8:36 p.m. No, they say tomorrow sun rises at 5:13 a.m. and sun sets, or the sunset is at, if they want to use it as a noun rather than a verb. But let's stick to using it. Let's stick to using it as the example. And sun sets at, what did I say, 8:36. That's because it's a fixed schedule. It's not a timetable, but it's fixed. It's a calendar event, and we know when it's going to happen. So there we go. I really hope that you find this tip helpful and that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications by clicking on the little bell. That means that when I release a new video, you'll get notified about it. I make videos like this every week, as well as my weekly vlog to help you learn English in context, and other videos to help you improve speaking English. I also teach English lessons online one-on-one, and for more information about that, you can check out my website, which is englishwithgaz.com. Gaz, G-A-Z, that's me. That's all. Thanks again for watching. Take care, and all the best. Bye-bye.